All right. Okay, so that's live. Now I got to double check and see if I'm going to be live over here. Probably got to let me get out of here. It's probably not in here. There it is. All right, we're live. We are live on another stream. We had to go to a different ingest server. So people should get the hint to get over here to the new link. I will post that. All right. All right. So that's the link to the show. And this is the nonsense when you're doing shoestring budget podcasting. How's it going, everybody? It is Zerilath Eternal. Hope you don't miss too much of the beginning right here. For those of you catching this in real time, or trying to, I'm here with my old friend Maximus North. It has been a hot minute. You went into your necessary kind of shamanic journey to pick up on some things, and I am getting a phone call. That phone call may be telling me there's trouble. Hold on a second. What is wrong? No, everything's fine. Let me pick this up real quick because this guy's probably watching the show right now. Hey, are you watching the show? Because I'm live on air. Yeah, I'm on YouTube right now, man. Yeah, it went to a different stream. Yeah. All right, I gotta go, man. All right. So anyway, Maximus, how you been since last time? We had a cool conversation about basically being like a shamanic warrior, demon hunter kind of thing, and you've got something new going on with everything with that. Let's talk about what you've gone through, what you've learned. Tell us the story.
Well, I think since basically the last time we spoke on that, like it was, I've been through a lot of like different experiences and stuff, and various experiences, and had various things happen to me, particularly last year, which is the year of the serpent in Chinese astrology, which I'm a serpent in Chinese astrology. So for me, that was quite a big like turning through, going through that. And also because Jupiter went into the sign of Cancer last year, and I'm a Cancerian, that was also kind of like a big, like, kind of, so there's those two convergences and those two different astrological systems coming on, which kind of made me kind of change quite a bit in a sense. And having like
I'm an Aries. I'm going through some weird shit right now.
Yeah, and so like I said, like in my video, the whole Aries is now on Saturn and Neptune, and because it's gone into Neptune now, and it's been in the sign of Pisces and Neptune for the last, I think, since 2011, and now it's gone to Aries. The spirituality is going to change for everyone basically, and it's going to be more of a, it's going to be less a what you would call a monastic spirituality, and now it's going to turn to a more of a warrior-based spirituality. So when it was in Pisces, it was more in that monastic kind of phase of the dreamer essentially, and just going kind of into our imaginations and not putting it really anything into action. Whereas now it's going to basically go full force into action.
Yeah.
So that's kind of going to, so for the next 13 years, it's going to be so it's going to be very much that like action based and highly active, and kind of, I would say, we could see a lot of things playing out on the world stage, particularly during to I would say warfare, but I don't think it's going to be warfare in the same way as the 20th century aspect of warfare, just put it that way. I don't think it's going to actually be so much people using like weapons on each other to kill each other. I think it's going to be more kind of a mental war, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. No. So much Psy-War stuff is has been going on in a great deal, right? The manner in which kind of this odd kind of asymmetrical soft power was used to try to force everyone into pandemic protocols. Right.
Yes, that was the Piscean. That was the peak of the Piscean in Neptune, because it was basically trying to isolate everyone else. Like, because Pisces is very much related to isolation, monasticism, and being in your own little world rather than actually interacting with other people's worlds. That makes sense.
Yeah, we're talking about incels.
Yeah, you could say that, but I would say more kind of, yeah, in a sense, but which kind of processes illusion in the mind, basically, because you're not interacting with objectivity. Whereas I would say Aries is very much kind of the opposite in that aspect, and it's going to basically make people kind of force people to kind of get out there a bit more.
Yeah,
I think
I kind of see it like when one of these like big ass like whales, like a humpback whale or whatever, it breaks the surface of the water and it gets like, how to get that much air out off the water, right? It's just, that's kind of what this Pisces to Aries kind of transition feels like. It's just like Gojira's playing in the background and some fucking whale just went airborne.
Yeah.
Because like this particular age we've been living in with Pisces has been kind of a deluge of the age of Aries, with the end of the Roman era.
Well, we're still in the
that stuff. There was a punishment of that kind of person. The straight up the hero was suppressed. And if you understand the esoteric relationship between the principle of the Christos and the hero, you understand that putting the Christos on the cross is the suppression of the hero.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, we're technically in the Pisces Aquarius age at the moment, because each age isn't just one age; it's a hybrid of two signs.
Sure, yeah.
So basically, the Roman Empire, like you were saying, that was the age of, and ancient Greece, that was the age of Aries and Pisces, in a sense, because it was kind of like the Axial Age was really kind of the age of Aries and Pisces, in the sense that basically you had all this, what you would call new spirituality and philosophy, but at the same time you still had that warrior kind of gods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the hero was very much emphasized. Whereas in the Pisces and Aquarius age is really modernity. It's since the 1500s, the time of the printing press and the Protestant Reformation onwards, kind of going through the industrial age of the Enlightenment and where we are now. And it'll probably go on for a lot longer in the future as well. But it's basically it's the two forces of basically what you would call I would say, dreams and creativity of Pisces, but also at the same time the rationality and logic of Aquarius. But it's also has aspects of the revolutionary and the kind of the breaking down of old ideas and stuff was very much Aquarius. So that's why there's a constant dismantlization of basically a lot of the old stuff, what's there. And it's kind of like, that's why we've had like so many revolutions since basically the time we're in, and probably will continue on into the future at some point. But
people need to understand how the world works, right? Because people don't understand how the world works. I think that the illusions of the dream of Neptune is going to really kind of become a loop that you're living in, that you're not going to get the reality of what's failing around you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Very Pisces. but it's got the high technology of Aquarius at the same time. So we don't so old more in the same way it used to, because and it's doesn't inspire us in the same way, because with all this technology going on at the same time, that's such a huge distraction away from old style religion that doesn't really. That's why magic these days, people basically put like, I don't know, a TV screen in front of them while they're doing like, audio and stuff like that, because that's a way of adapting magic to the time we're living in now. We can't go back to basically how they practiced magic back in, I don't know, the 500 years ago, because that's not, it's outdated. It's like you have these people who still practice the rituals exactly how the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn practiced it. Yeah, right. But that was back in the Victorian era. Things have changed since then. Like,
yeah.
And you got like chaos magicians what kind of have a good handle on updating it, but I would say even that's kind of becoming outdated, because that's very 80s 90s style magic. That's very like postmodern, whereas now we're kind of reflecting on postmodernism. Now we're realizing that what postmodern ultimately leads to is isolation, because it's so subjective and so like there is no objectivity to it. So subjective that it puts people in their own boxes, them in their own little world, which that worked for a while, yes, and it kind of gave us a lot more. It gave us the necessary freedom to break out of these old static paradigms what were no longer serving us anymore. And that's kind of been a theme since probably like the 60s and 70s onwards. We broke out of that, but it was ultimately just led us into these very hyper individualized selves, rather than actually coming to some sort of more of a collective. But then the reason why we fear going back into a collective is because of the ideologies that happened in the 20th century with things like fascism.
We're terrified of the whole bit about like, falling out of your individualism, right?
Yes.
Because like the big joke with the clown world, right, is that when you take the makeup off of the clown, you take all the decorations off of the circus, you just have postmodern brutalist communism, right?
Yes, but I would say
they're dressing up like clowns because they're trying to like dress up the personality that isn't there, that's agreeing with everyone else and going in this line.
Yeah, I mean that's more. You could say that, but I would say it's more postmodern liberalism, because I would say that communism isn't really isn't really a philosophy that glues society together in the present. I think it's actually quite fringe, and I don't think a lot of people really believe in it. But liberalism is far more believed by the masses, I think, and it's probably, we all kind of have it inside of us, because it's basically the foundation of Western civilization. Probably after World War II onwards, liberalism has replaced Christianity as the foundational philosophy, if you want to put it that way. But what liberalism ultimately leads to is basically cutting off all social bonds to everything, and just like we said, going into your own little world. And so it's a reflection upon that. And I think in America and here in Britain as well, that's extremely hard to do, because our societies were foundationally based on that principle. And so it's kind of like, what do we replace it with eventually? Is the answer.
Right. Yeah. It's the individuals within the quote collective, and it has a lot to do with, first off, a lot of people don't know what an authentic individual is half the time. Especially because they're still finding themselves, and then the collective is more just like the copacetic association with all peoples and everything around them.
Yeah,
I mean, it's all pretty easy to me.
Yeah, it's more like the collective has become more of a transaction rather than a tribe. It's a transaction being like I mean, particularly I would say that in the last about 20 years, it's become more of a transaction rather than a tribe, because there's less of a shared culture these days. And
Right.
but I can remember
Like,
growing up. I grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s when that shared culture was still there. Whereas nowadays, people have become so individualized to the point where there's less of a shared culture, and that's kind of become so. Yeah, we've got right at this place, but it's kind of like, how do we what do we kind of either replace it with? Because
right.
like we're saying, the whole idea of the transhumanism idea of basically going off and merging with machine, and maybe they're going to present that basically if we just all, in a sense, like just basically all merge with the machine and become like the Borg. And I think that's kind of what their solution is going to be. That's going to be the collectivism that they're going to basically sell this century, rather than the old-fashioned fascism and communism of yesteryear.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. And
The
like
old stuff, I
was gonna say, like with Who Got the Jab, the or the collection of life choices that you made in your assumptions about the future will funnel you into a really, really hard choice, right?
Yeah.
I had hard choices to make in the pandemic.
Yeah.
Some people didn't have very hard choices at all, and they had no trouble being an unjabbed person. Others, it was a real bad bag for them.
Oh yeah, I mean,
they either sacrificed a lot, or they gave in for their family or something.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't for me. It wasn't so much I mean, I didn't obviously take the jab or whatever, but I didn't find it hard to resist it. The only thing that I think I might have found a bit hard, but because they were going, well, the government was thinking about putting down like restrictions on people who didn't do it, but obviously that's gone all,
Yeah, that was the wonderful play test for Mark of the Beast, and we all know that Peter Thiel is an Antichrist expert playing with his computer chips and transhuman ideas from Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah. The whole well, a lot of like what you would call the tech billionaire class, they're the high priests of the new transhumanist religion.
Right.
So that's what they're going to basically and then you see all the movies these days, and what is the villain nowadays? It's the tech billionaires. So in a sense, they're telling us subliminally, like they are but at the same time, like they put hype this new religion. But I kind of think like I don't know if actually the whole transhumanist thing is going to work on basically people our age and older, because I think a lot of people are getting fed up with the whole AI slop online and everything, and they're seeing this as not actually that great. And I think quite a few people are moving away. But I think that I don't think they're aiming for people our age. I think they're aiming for the really young, like the ones who are like, people under the age of about 25 nowadays. They're the ones that they're aiming.
I'm sure that they I think there's a lot of millennials and Gen Z that are going to be unfortunately snagged up as the Shavat Goy they want them to be for these experiments. But I do think that there's so much example of another way, and everything's been telling me that it's all gonna that the worst. I don't know. I can't really say about what I'm vibe checking on. I just know that it's not as bad as my worst fears. That's all I can intuitively say about when they're gonna give this plan their best shot, if you will.
Yeah. Well, I think it could very well collapse very badly for them. Like I don't think the end of I don't think the end of the human story here on Earth is just us becoming the Borg. I think that's not
Right. Well,
see that
I mean, to be fair, like, okay, so where do I live? I live, as people know, I live here in one of the Epstein towns, Greenwich, Connecticut, right? So I go to Whole Foods, you know.
Yeah.
I noticed at the checkout counters recently that their palm scanners at the checkout counters had been taken off on all of the registers, all the self checkouts. They don't have palm scanners. I've never seen anybody in the store use them. So they probably gave up on the palm scanner, which is great, meaning they're taking a step away from I need your bodily fluids to make a transaction.
Yeah. I mean, I live in what people call Rothschild County, so which is Hertfordshire. So it's like the let's just put it the way, it's kind of like the posh county here, one of the posh counties here in England, basically. And they have all these kind of old, like, kind of, I guess you could say, like a lot of old estates of, like, you know, like lords and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. So it's kind of and
yeah,
and it's like kind of, you could put it that way. It's just kind of a county just outside of London, northwest London. And
gotcha.
A lot of because I mean, London's one of probably the centers of, like, a lot of things. And so a lot of stuff goes on here. I mean, a lot of actually the magical orders come out of London. So
well, I've traced I've traced my my name to North England. And it's confirmed that my family line were prominent Crusaders. So I'm a Norman North English Templar descendant. That's pretty wild.
I think I'm more Anglo-Saxon than I'm Norman, but I probably got some Norman in me as well. But I mean, my son, I mean,
it's entirely. I'm not even 100% sure what exactly is all in me, because that's just me tracing the name itself, right? The family name.
Let's see. So, like, I've also I mean, I got but that's more my father's side. My mother's side, I'm actually Irish. So and I think I'm Norse, what they call Norse Gael. So it's basically like Viking mixed with the Irish Celts, basically.
And my mom's Italian, and it's even I've been suspected of being possibly part Sicilian, because my mom has very coarse, dark hair, and so they say that that's mostly a quality of southern Italian.
The southern Italians, which they're quite different to the northern Italians.
Right. And
a lot of the northern Italians are actually German, apparently, more than they are, because of the mixing what happened.
It's fascinating when you look at the way the loose affiliation of Italian states actually were, and it's not a highly defined line between where, like, Italian provinces end and German provinces begin. It's
there wasn't a united Germany until about the 19th century.
Right, exactly. With
so it was all these kind of like smaller kingdoms, basically, all dotted in what they call the Holy Roman Empire, and that was just little like provinces and kingdoms and stuff. So it wasn't like it was this country I'm in, England, that's been more united for a lot longer period of time because Alfred the Great united England together.
I mean, like, I think you're basically looking at after the Napoleonic Wars, effectively.
That was the time
when France scaled back. Then there's all this breathing room for Germany to be like, hey, maybe if we team up, that short ass bitch from the Franks is not going to do that again.
Well, here in England, we don't like the French very much. So
I know, right?
They're arch rivals historically. So
I am a quarter French, so
yeah.
I have to give you a little bit of a fuck you, but I really like it though. Okay, right.
I've probably got some French in my ancestry somewhere. So
Oh, I am sure we've slaughtered each other in a past life. It's good to meet you, friend. So you've discovered something new about the relationship between the elves and the Elohim that you were
yes.
excited to talk about.
So
So I'm excited to talk about that too
I
because
want to read about this book
yeah,
first because it's related to it. I'll read
yeah,
out this book. The Hebrew term for angel is malach, meaning messenger. The word angel itself comes through the Sanskrit angrias, Sanskrit is Indo-European language, Persian angrias to the Greek angelos. Such pre-Christian roots are apparent even in the angels' names, which commonly end with the singular El, meaning being of light. Michael, Uriel, Gabriel, Raphael, etc. The word is of Sumerian origin and is synchronistic with the Akkadian Ilu, Babylonian Elu, Old Welsh Elu, Old Irish Alaili, Anglo-Saxon Elf, and English Elf, and perhaps even our modern term alien. In all these interpretations, the beings of light are understood to be more evolved or vibrating at a higher frequency than mortal humans. So if you look at it through linguistically, it all kind of is very similar. And I kind of do see just basically all this, any kind of thing in any mythology around the world, what has this kind of this interpretation of an interdimensional race, which is similar to us in not rivals us kind of in mentally and even spiritually is basically it is that. So whatever kind of lens you're looking at from, if you're looking at from a Norse Germanic lens, then it'll be an alpha or an elf. If you're looking at from the Celtic Irish lens, it's a she or a fairy. If you're looking at from the Arabian or Islamic lens, it's the jinn. If you're looking at from a Judeo-Christian lens, it's the angels or the Elohim. If you're looking at from a, all these different, you could look different. Well, even if you're looking at from a modern secular lens, there's aliens because it's all the same thing, really.
yeah,
And they kind of, and it seems to be what it kind of all boils down to. It's this. They're basically interdimensional people, basically living kind of in parallel with our universe, but on another universal plane, and they interact with us somehow, and they probably like to play tricks on us and stuff like that as well, and just play around with us. But and they're a consciousness that rivals our own. So, but apparently what I know is that they weren't favored by the gods, whereas humans were.
Right. Yeah. Which if you're putting the Elohim in that category, right? Because us as pagans, hearing El is saying that it is associated with elf, and we know that elf is not God, and there's nowhere anywhere where elves are worshipped unless it is a god of elves.
Yes. Well, Frey, the Vanir god, was said to be the lord of the elves. So I think the Vanir actually might be the elves in a sense, because only some of them were accepted into the Aesir. And the Aesir, the term Aesir is translated as god or gods.
Right.
So, so the Vanir, I think, are just kind of like basically are pretty much the same thing as the elves.
Yeah.
Because the elves are skilled in magic and sorcery, just like humans are as well.
Yeah, because like I see like certain kinds of nature spirits that seem to be of Vanaheim, and then there are certain kinds of nature spirits that are of Jotunheim.
Yes, well, the Jotuns, I would put them as demons, and if you're comparing it to the like the Judeo-Christian perspective, or the or the Titans in the Greek Hellenic perspective,
or Japanese demons, which can be extraordinarily benevolent.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, demons aren't necessarily evil. They're just basically chaotic. That's what it means. It's chaos, essentially. So not all of them are like, blood-sucking parasites or anything like that, or psychopathic. They're basically, it's just they're chaotic. They're chaos. Like, if you look at the Jotuns, not all of them are actually evil. If you look at them, like, they're just, it's so. But the gods are order. That's what gods are. They're order. So we get our morality from the gods, which is basically natural law. Basically are the ones that basically gave us natural law, essentially, or cosmic law. That's what the gods gave us, and so that's order. And that's basically putting ourselves in order and in check. Whereas the Jotuns basically are the bringers of chaos, meaning that basically that's needed to balance out order in the universe. So they're part of our universe, but they're basically they're the chaotic aspect.
Yeah.
Whereas the elves, or the El, or what you want to call them, they're kind of something kind of else. They're not just order or just chaos. I think they probably have their own civilization. They have their own cultures and stuff. They probably have their various tribes and stuff, and their various, ethnicities, the same way us humans do. But they're just a parallel to us in a sense.
Right. There's some of the teachings, especially the ones that are kind of like mapping things out for like almost like Jungian allegorical purposes and whatnot, but I think is also esoterically true spiritually, is that that like the dwarves are very much a they're a subconscious realm, Svartalfheim, right? And subconscious is differentiated from unconscious, because subconscious is where art is coming from, and all these like baseline thoughts that are always in the surface drift. And then the elves in Losjalfheim or Alfheim, that's more of your intuitive consciousness.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think. I think the Filger, like the or what you call the half self, I think that's a type of elf in a sense, but it's an elf that's attached to us essentially. So it's kind of like a parallel spirit in a sense. But I think that's kind of what you would call in the Greeks they call it the daemon, or the and also if you're the oldest male of a family line, which I am, you have a Valkyrie as your filter. So I think it's all connected to kind of like that, the filter being our higher self, your intuition, and that's the I think that's also connected to the elves in some way. It's more of like it's more like what I'm trying to also figure out is like people see these kind of like lights in the sky, which obviously they always say is a UFO, but I don't think a lot of the time it's a spaceship. I just think it's that is basically the elves essentially around, and that's them coming out of this reality.
And a lot of them will move. And a lot of them will move like because I've seen spherical luminosities of a paranormal manner one or two times, and they're always like they're locked together, like there's an invisible thing tying them together. So your mind will think, is there an invisible ship, and those are the lights that they turn on, so you can see just the lights of the invisible ship, because that's what it looks like. It's a triangle delta formation, so perfect it looks like a single unit, right? It's almost uncanny valley in that respect, right? So the adherence to form when there's many of them is something that I find remarkable. And so the question I got then is, right, so if this is the term being used for elf level, and it's basically what the Bible is saying is the deity, their worship. Like, I think that this is kind of like pointing out like a big difference here, that these are angel worshippers effectively. If they're worshiping the Elohim,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all the same thing as the messenger, even though they have the word malak for their messenger angels, if you will, right?
Well,
So that means that they're not worshiping gods in
yeah.
the book.
Our ancestors that we like gave when we get offerings on top of like the hill forts, not the hill fort. I mean the oh, what do you call them? I think it's off my head. The barrows. You know, the barrows where they used to bury the dead underneath, and they would pour mead on top of there. That was giving offerings to the elves essentially, and also the fairies in Ireland, and so they gave offerings to them as well. So I think that's probably what you're describing, Levantine Hebrew version of that. That's what they did with angels essentially, because if that's their equivalent, then so I think in a sense, yeah, I mean, because the gods are one thing, but then the elves is another thing as well. And I think that basically our ancestors probably did worship elves as well as they did the gods.
Right. And
yeah,
I think that kind of causes a bit of an issue, because the elves are kind of like they're just like a people that kind of live in the fourth dimension, if you will. They kind of live in a wonderful upper universe.
They have like in folklore they described it as basically they're these portals in the trees where they go into and they come out of. So that's all in folklore, like and
yeah.
stuff.
So it changes the perspective when you're looking at these two, right? So
yeah,
you've got these guys that are worshiping elves, and you got these guys that are worshiping Sumerian demons.
Yeah.
Beelzebub, whatever, because they're not worshiping gods either.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're not worshiping gods, they're worshiping elves as their gods, and they're worshiping Babylonian demons as their gods.
Yeah.
Right. So nobody's worshiping gods in the Old Testament. That's blowing my fucking mind. They must know in that inherent time with whatever paltering took it out or is hiding it in the translation somewhere. There must be an acknowledgement that these guys are not gods, but just spirits that they found as to be. So I don't know. Maybe it's in the Talmud somewhere, but like I just read the Talmud. I didn't read the whole Talmud. I read the core of the Talmud with all the reference points.
It's interesting. I tried to read the Talmud once and I couldn't, because energy started coming to my head and it went like vibrating like that. So I had to just basically, it's just a PDF file on the internet, but I was just going, it was like that. And it made me kind of feel weird.
Watch how I read it, because I break all that shit. I just fucking read it and I just fucking troll it in real time. I'm live stream reading the Talmud, and any fucking curse in that book, I'm just laughing at. I'm just like, I'll just read a sentence. I'll be like, really? You guys really had, like, it has to be 4 L's, not 4.3 L's. Otherwise the Lord's going to be very, very upset. Right. What? That's just a level of absurd. I just laughed at it the whole time. I read everything. I put myself in various persons' shoes and empathized with the madness of it all. Right. And it's criticized it every step of the way. I may have repeated myself a handful of times. I found 20 million jokes by accident. All sorts of moments of black magic where they talk about fucking like ripping out the uterus of a fucking cow or something, and it applying it to a wound to cure a thing or whatever. It's like stem cells in black magic form, right? It's all sorts of wild shit that I just it's an expose, it's a deconstruction, and it's a little bit of my magic, because things happen in the reality field when I do these streams. So I know an effect that I have.
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, I there's quite a while ago when I basically tried to read it. Maybe it wouldn't work on me. The blockages basically mean whatever was not wanting me to read it wouldn't work now. But it's it just kind of like, to me, it just looked overcomplicated and over like,
yeah, no, it is. It's like it's literally imagine a religion where every single week you got to remember all these rules, otherwise you've got to give all these sin offerings for every
that's the difference between Judaism and Christianity. So basically in Christianity, Christianity is a religion of belief. To be a Christian, you've got to basically believe that Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior. If you don't believe that, you're not a Christian. Judaism, it's basically it's a religion of practice, not belief. So you don't even have to believe in God to be basically religiously a Jew.
Right.
You just basically
Islam is also kind of the same thing. Christianity is the only one of these three that is interpreted as having freedom. Like there's more free, like Christians aren't driving themselves nuts with a million rules and regulations. They may be Puritans, but they don't have,
because Christianity is so interpretive to every individual and to all the different denominations and churches. I mean, it was at one time like that back in the Middle Ages with the Catholic Church, when they really controlled what was. But since the Protestant Reformation, it's basically every individual can just pick up the Bible, read it, and interpret it in their own way. And so that's become highly individualized in that sense. But obviously, it's a religion based on that one belief that Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior. And that's all you have to do in order to be a Christian, essentially. You can be a bad Christian or a good Christian, doesn't matter, but that's what you have to. Whereas if Islam is also a religion of belief, but it's a mix of kind of Judaism and Christianity in the sense that it's got loads of rules and regulations. Potentially what Islam is, it's a authoritarian, totalitarian regime disguised as a religion. That's what it is. That's basically what it is. That's why it's got so many rules and regulations. It basically encompasses every single aspect of life. So whether you're like
and the Talmud is not a religious text, it's a book of their government, and it's not the government of Israel, it's Babylon. Babylonian Talmud.
Well, it's the book of the rabbis, that's what it is.
It is, but in the Talmud itself, it is quoted by the sages in the Talmud that this is the laws of our government. It uses the word government in the English translation.
Yeah.
Right. So that's my point. Because what it is imagine that you lost all the books of your law, but you had all the logs of the transcripts of the court debating the laws. The laws are gone, but you have the transcripts from the Supreme Court that was debating what was legal and what wasn't legal, and then reverse engineering what the law was. And why does it matter? Because if you don't do the Sabbath properly, you don't get the Shekinah, right? You don't get that. It's like basically you haven't set up your space to have proper meditation, to feel the presence of the Elohim in your life and all that shit, right? But the Shekinah is really, it's the Holy Spirit. It's the occulted goddess. Everybody gets that. That's the one point of it all. And then literally everything is only about the Sabbath. There's nothing inside the Talmud, almost nothing inside that core book that what's going on for the Sabbath, preparations for the Sabbath. You have that's a whole week that you got like 5-6 days to prepare for this day and a half or whatever, right? And to make sure that it all goes smoothly, and you got to remember all the X, Y's, and Z's to make sure that you are not, because you're being ordered not to work to the extreme that if you write down a single letter on a piece of paper for any fucking particular reason, with few exceptions, which get debated and then contradicted within themselves, it's considered work, and you must not write it down. So don't write anything down. Don't tie a lace. Don't do this. Don't do that. But for the exceptions of X, Y, and Z under X, Y, and Z conditions, so that way the Sabbath can actually happen, right? Or there's an emergency and you have to compensate for something missing that would otherwise be the proper way to do it. And it's covering all this shit, right? And as far as they're concerned, I guess society stands as long as you can cover all this shit.
Yeah. I mean, it does sound very complex in that way.
It is. It like there's like I would have there'd be no room for fucking spiritual growth.
No, it just sounds like
it's a very in the intellect, keep the monkey mind turning kind of thing, because it sounds to me that the whole point of getting them to take the Talmud as important authority of significance is that all of this helps you discover the mystery of having a deeper relationship with God every Sabbath, as long as you can avoid all the sin offerings, right?
Yeah.
With the exception of any core sin offerings you just got to do anyway, or whatever. I don't know, right? I'm not trying to be an expert in it. I read it so that way I'm read on it and have authority to say something about it.
The one aspect of Judaism I have looked into quite deeply is the Kabbalah. Because I used to work the Kabbalah when I was starting my occult practices and stuff, because that's kind of like, because I was reading books by the Hermetic Golden Dawn and stuff. And obviously the Kabbalah, there's problems with that because it doesn't have this kind of natural look to it. It's kind of like pulled down slightly and then it opens up the Diaf, which is basically like this abyss, basically. So it's kind of like I kind of work now with the structure, which is kind of like that's closed in. So kind of like Tapareth is just underneath Kappa, right? In that sense, and it's kind of like, so it's kind of structured like that. But I mean,
you know how some of the structures work in Keylontic sciences. Or even Edred Thorson, the 9 Doors of Midgard. I read that on the channel because it actually had a proper schematic of the true universal tree of life, which is
that's the thing. I combined the Keylontic sciences, that version of the Kabbalah, and the Yggdrasil all together into one thing. I think it's basically all kind of, and that's pretty what the true tree of life is. But it got, for whatever reason, it's been fragmented, and so that's why you have all these distortions in it. And basically, there's just different pieces of it scattered around different cultures. And then that's kind of like why, so I've got the books on Keylontic sciences. I got and I've looked into all the Edward Forson's Yggdrasil structure, so I got all of that, and I kind of construct my own version of it, and I kind of just use that as a kind of like templating for understanding it, rather than kind of like this, because it's a lot of like the old, like I was saying, the old Golden Dawn stuff and all that. That is very outdated Victorian kind of almost magic. So it's like, I mean, it's overly complex, but also just they don't realize that basically you can make a ritual that's so much more simpler than basically having to go through this very highly complex way of doing it. And that's kind of what a lot of people get stuck in, all these Golden Dawn grimoires and stuff. They just go over.
You know what it is? It's the occult version of Monty Python's Meaning of Life, Birth. That's the machine that goes ping, right? It's this big, complicated, expensive doohickey that assists the birthing process, and it's just like you forgot your primal life force energy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is that, like, and I mean, like, obviously now it's a lot more easier to learn about like all this kind of stuff, like these aspects of the occult now of the internet and stuff. But you got to remember, like, back in the day, for example, back really before the internet started, you kind of, the only way you got hold of this stuff is you had to either go down to the library and really look into this stuff, or you basically had to just join some secret society. And that were the only two ways. And if you go right back to the Victorian time, all of the reason why only aristocrats and like lords and barons and all these upper class people were the only ones practicing magic is because they're the only ones that have time on their hands, because everyone else is just working all the time. So and to Aleister Crowley's credit, he kind of wanted to elevate the practice of magic and to open it up to people. Well, he popularized it. So he popularized it, and although I think with his connections to British intelligence, I'm sure he was also up to a tremendous amount of no good. But as a chaos agent, you got to get through this, like way before you understand the deeper cosmological metaphysics to why you want to get off of something like Kabbalah.
Kabbalah gets ended up incorporated with everything because it's such a comprehensive system, and there's no other comprehensive system.
I think the reason why
revolving around the tree of life schematic.
Yeah, because it's got the tree of life, which is a universal thing throughout all different, like, from all times and all places. So it's something that is basically 100% intuitively true. That's why it resonates with people so much. So that's why it always, like you said, lies at the center of it. And I think that's So there's other have you heard of Gerald Gardner, the guy who created Wicca? His coven is actually just down the road from where I am, here in Hertfordshire. And but it's just a boarded up shed down in Nude Park, but there's nothing that interesting. But that was his coven, and he was the creator of Wicca, and he was also a civil servant and a Freemason as well. And what he really did is he just took Hermeticism and kind of made it and mixed it with and pretended it was European witchcraft when it really isn't. Wicca is kind of it's actually probably got more in common of like Hermetic ceremonial magic than it has with actual European witchcraft. And they don't, so that's the, I mean, I've never really got, I've kind of like find the origins of Wicca interesting, but I've never actually practiced it myself because I was past that by the time I was looking into this stuff.
Right.
It can be a good entry point for like paganism and the occult in general and the esoteric in general.
Yeah.
I don't think it's very much a starting point, but I mean, now it's kind of now just become ritualized feminism nowadays.
Well, there was a lot of feminist subtext in, I think it's Inception, right? Which is which I think which was exploiting just that, like, a mature time for the goddess energy, for the inspiration of women. It was not there yet, right? And Wicca it uses Kabbalah. It's basically another sect of Judaism.
It is kind. It's a mix of like various things. It's basically what you'd say Kabbalah, Hermeticism, but kind of masquerading as European witchcraft, but it's not.
Right. It's a little bit of Norse. It tries to be like British Druidic Celtic. A little bit of Irish Celtic, and Egyptian is also very popular, which is also perpetrating the Jewish aspects of it, as well as legitimate claims, because I do study Michael Sarion, so I do not dismiss the Egyptian Albion connection.
There is a connection. I mean, I think there was definitely, like, because I've read that in the Irish Origins of Civilization.
I'd be kicked out of the mystery school if I didn't say that. Shout out Black Earth Productions, Seth Gasboza, Temple of the White Dragon.
So I think it's more the fact that I think there was connections between a lot of various cultures in the past, not just between Northern Europe and Egypt. I think also in Asia there was also in the Mayan, the Central America, and also even probably from Africa as well. So there was all these connections, but it does seem to be that Kemet seems to be this kind of almost like this center hub for all of them. So they all kind of met there in a sense, and it would make sense because that's
I believe
the center of those four directions in a sense.
Right. I believe, and I think aspects of the Bach saga have confirmed this, if I remember Bach saga correctly, is that like after the first Ragnarok, when mankind was getting back together, reacclimating itself towards the end of the Younger Dryas, all that stuff, basically the Middle East became the quote cradle of civilization, because everybody that got cut off from Udenma, Hyperborea behind Atlantis had to go down south. And after the flood, right?
Yes.
So they went down and they recolonized in Kemet, and I think they also recolonized off of the Ganges River. So they used the Nile and the Ganges River to re-kick off society.
I mean, you got obviously other settlements like Göbekli Tepe and stuff. What happened probably maybe at the same time or before that. But Göbekli Tepe goes back to about 10,000 BC. So that goes in technically, if we're looking at historical terms, that's older than basically the civilization of ancient Egypt. Because I think there was a Hermetic culture before the civilization of ancient Egypt, but ancient Egypt wasn't a civilization until around about 3000 BC. But there was obviously a Hermetic culture before that, or predates that. They just didn't have linear writing. So they would have built structures and stuff. They would have done things, but what makes a civilization is linear writing. If it doesn't have that, then it's not a civilization, but it's still a culture. Yeah, because that's really what officially makes a civilization. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Anytime I think of Turkey, I think of of anything where I have to think about what the Turkic people were and the Ottoman Empire and the Young Turks. There's so many connections there, and I know that that's all aspected to the descendants of the various Sumerians that came along with the incursion that brings in this whole issue with like the Elohim worship. Did you find any history on that? Like when these people like abandoned their gods to worship the elves effectively?
I think it might have something to do with like you got the idea of like maybe you got the idea of the woman of betraying their own men, for example, and that's right. You know, you got like the Bible, you got the Nephilim and stuff, and you got like these other
there's the Angani massacre.
So maybe there was maybe some of the elves or a faction of the elves, what we refer to the Svartalfar, came in and they kind of basically mated or kind of, and I don't mean mated in maybe not even a physical sense, but kind of got into their minds almost and manipulated the woman against their own men. And that's kind of why you had the whole term of like woman give birth to evil, because that was the first time when the betrayal happened, and it was the betrayal of women to their own men. And then from then on, that's why there was kind of maybe a suppression of more like the goddess over time, because of the fear. Because the men fearing that, not that the goddess is evil or anything like that. But the men
because that makes sense to me. Like a corrupted shaman or a ceremonial magician working with a demon or an angel or whatever, they could go through and put on the mask and embody and let them possess and be the vessel, so the god is acting in their stead. And unlike with a shamanic possession where it's much more of a handshake of two minds, you're taking a back seat and accepting all liability when the motherfucker's done.
So I think that's probably what happened with that, and that's why they started going into more of this kind of like elf or angel worship, rather than the actual traditional god's worship. And so I think that has something to do with like the betrayal that happens there, and it probably spread like around spaces, and that's kind of. But I kind of refer to that as the Svartalfar more than anything, and that kind of is what you would call the fallen angels or the Nephilim in the Bible, or it's other things in other places as well. But it's basically that same story, and it's basically one that's kind of like eternal, and it's something what did happen. And I mean, you have like so I think it's probably a lot to do with that. So because they started, because obviously it also happened in a lot in Central America as well, the Aztecs, when they started basically moving away from their gods into basically what you would call this demon worship. And that's why they did the whole mass human sacrifice and stuff. which people love to say that that went on European paganism as well, but it didn't. There's no archaeological evidence for that. They did do human sacrifices in Europe, but it was done only to criminals and war captives, never to actually that just randomly. They didn't just randomly get someone from their tribe and sacrifice them. It was punishment basically in times of war and to criminals. But in the Aztec culture, it was basically just mass human sacrifice on a level where they're just pulling anyone in there and just basically.
Yeah. Have you seen? I've had him on my channel. Like, have you seen Sean Bond on my channel with artifacts from Mexico?
I haven't seen the one who's got the artifacts in Mexico, but I've seen you and him talking with him before.
Yeah. Okay. If you check out the conversation, the conversations I've had with him recently, he has uncovered these artifacts from Mexico that are they're basically it's like the Greys all over the place. The Hopis ant people. One may also equate them to, and these are crystal skulls. And there's other artifacts depicting stuff, and it's not just Egyptian. It's Egyptian. I'm sorry. It's like Aztec, Mexican deities, Egyptian, and Sumerian. All three motifs, and it's this enormous load. It's so well marked. It took me a hot minute to accept whether it was real or not. Right? I needed, because like, am I looking at some fucking like, tabloid newspaper shit and is my buddy getting duped? But no, it's authentic shit. It's not incredibly old. It's kind of like their civilization just not long before we showed up. Their civilization was in contact with some remnant of the Phoenicians or Sea Peoples Federation, landed in the Americas, became some sort of influence that introduced them to AI, because there's microchip is a worshipped symbol amongst everything. It's a fucking square, and it's got these squiggly nodal points coming out from all four directions. And it's showing it on the foreheads of the crystal skulls, or like right on top up here of the crystal skulls. And it's showing depictions of like kings using it on their bodies. So there's transhumanism, AI talking to these entities of various types. And it's like, I think Anubis was amongst one of the entities depicted. There were Nagas, Naga-looking guys. The Greys were very, as they were depicted, wispy. They didn't have legs. They had like ghosts, right? Like possibly jinn.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. These are all things I discussed. So you're going to want to check that out, because it's authentic. It's everything that's at least. Sean showed me stuff that other people showed him that they found, and I told him, well, if you haven't validated that, I'm telling you right there, I think that one's a fraud, because I can see where they're possibly faking the way that it's moving, right? Because there's one that looks like a satellite, that's a dish that's twisting like that. And I said, that's standing on a crate with the hole in the bottom. Somebody could be twisting that with a stick. I would want to validate that, because I think that they're faking it.
Yeah.
Well, right. But his stuff, all of his stuff's authentic. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the Phoenicians, because I think the Phoenicians are probably one of the groups that were the big bads of history.
One of the what's of history?
One of the big bad of history.
Oh, no. Yeah. Yes.
Because the Romans looked down upon them for practicing child sacrifice. So
that's like. That's where when the Anunnaki felt like my thing has been entirely now. The question for the Middle East in particular is pre-Anunnaki world, post-Anunnaki world. I do not count anything going on that can be confirmed as part of the Anunnaki changes to civilization as legitimate paganism.
Yeah.
Pre-Anunnaki. Every time I meet a Jew, I tell them, dig deeper into the past.
Yeah.
You've been robbed of something precious you don't understand, and we don't understand it, and it's your bloodline. Yeah. You have to find it. That's what I tell every fucking Jew that I meet nowadays, because I love them.
The only two like forms of paganism I can say basically aren't infected by the Anunnaki ones is the ancient Hermetic one and also the Arabian one as well. Pre-Islamic Arabia. That's another one which is
right.
So you know where Mecca was. So where Mecca is, that was originally a pagan site where they had multiple idols on, and they had a moon goddess and a triple moon goddess. And that's
I think we're going to by the end of this year, I think mankind is going to have a tremendous gift, because I do believe, whether it be by what current events look like now or something we don't understand, but I believe that Iran is going to open up. And with it opening up, it means we finally get to fucking understand Zoroastrianism and the entire culture going on there in a way that we've been cut off from for 50 fucking years. And imagine what new anthropology and archaeology can fucking compare notes if they don't fucking destroy that shit on the way out.
Yeah.
Right? We have the opportunity of having a huge piece of the veil lifted, as well as a whole lot of people in a better situation. And I'm not naive. I don't trust people going on, but I'm reading something beyond the people in charge.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you mentioned Zoroastrianism, because have you heard of Jason Rezajani's work?
I've invited him on the channel through X. He is yet to respond.
All right. Yeah.
Hi, Jason. Come on, man. Free Iran, buddy. Come on. Come on. I know I've said a million ignorant things, but come on. Talk to me.
He's got quite interesting work. I mean, some of it does go into transhumanism, but unlike other transhumanists, he's not a materialist. So he has this kind of very like spiritual, almost like Nietzschean version of transhumanism in a sense. And obviously I'm kind of skeptical. I don't know exactly what his agenda is or what, but I have listened to like several of his audio books.
Yeah.
And
one of the things he's talking about,
it's a lot of information. It is kind of like, it kind of challenges my own views and stuff a lot of the time. And it's kind of, but he seems to think that all the gods of all the pantheons and stuff are all just the Pleiadian Nordic aliens, basically. But he doesn't say they're aliens. He just says they're time travelers.
But you know what? I think in a certain context, yes, because I do believe that we've dealt with many imposters, or even perhaps just some aliens that are visiting didn't mean any harm. So, well, he's going to think I'm Jesus anyway, right?
Yeah.
Like that or something, right?
Yeah.
That's what I think happens once in a while in our complex intersectional multiverse that people don't quite understand that Midgard is.
Yeah. But he does seem to describe these time travelers like basically the elves, basically. So
yeah.
I'm trying to maybe he's got like, you know, and I do respect him because he's a highly intelligent man. So he does know a lot, but it's some of his
I think he's a good man, and I'd rather be able to agree to disagree. And at the end of the day, I want to see Iran free of fundamentalist religious zealots that are Nazis as much as anyone else.
Yeah. Well, he reckons that basically Islam will be gone in Iran in about a generation or two. So that's what he says. So it won't even exist there in a generation or two, according to him. But
I am sure once the flip happens, you know, people are going to just, they're going to want to be like away from, they're going to want to make Muslims just go, like, they've been through too much dealing with what they are, because where they go, they take up space in the, like they do their public prayer things. They got their loud blast horns or whatever for their shit. And they're doing all sorts of rituals that are establishing their reality there, right? It's trying to manifest and open up a portal for that spirit of the law, the morality, and the ethics, and the whole nine yard. It's inseparable from it. It's the Quran is too much a book for government and law to not do that to people of that religion. Far too much.
Well, the thing also with the Quran is like that has, so the Bible wasn't, you got to understand, the Bible wasn't, most people didn't actually know how to read the Bible within Western civilization until a couple hundred years ago. Whereas with the Quran in the Islamic civilization, that stuff has been burnt into their brains for about over 1,000 years now.
Right.
Because they were literate before us, before the West was. So that has been gone straight into their minds. So that has more of a stronghold inside their own minds from that generationally than basically Christianity or Christendom was with us. So and you also got to remember that Christendom was with Catholicism especially, was hybridized with paganism anyway. So we weren't in the Middle Ages, for example, we weren't just Christian, we were also pagan as well, but we were a mixture of both. So
right. Some places the Christians weren't so harsh about it, right?
Well, yeah, I mean the church was, like the priestarchy were, but not the average like person within Christian Europe. They were half pagan, half Christian in that sense. So they didn't have they were only taught the vague teachings of Christianity. They didn't like
they tell you just enough. They tell you just enough to hook you in accordance with the way they want you to behave. They think that you'll agree with right now at your level of consciousness. Right?
Yes, yeah. It was a behavior modification. It wasn't so much they expected everyone to basically, be a scholar of the Bible, which that was all the priestarchy's job anyway to do that.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm saying with Islam, it's different. It's basically they really wanted everyone to basically just have the Quran absorbed completely into them. It was that level of like, so it was a lot more literal based. So that's kind of the whole thing of that religion, which is kind of what makes it different from Christendom in that sense. And so it has more of a stronghold in their minds and stuff. So yeah, it's going to be, it's very much more difficult for them to indoctrinate themselves out of that in a sense.
Right. I think at the end of the day, it's like back then they're like, especially at the lowest times of paganism, like the Viking Age or whatever, a real connection to the idea of the higher force is really lost, right? The Brahman, as the Hindus call it. I believe in the Eddas that the Jinn region, as it is stated in Voluspa and Havamal, is what we would call the higher force, because it's like I looked into its meaning and context, and it's pretty much the central power of Gununga Gap, and that sounds like that would be it, because the Jinn region is where the runes were grabbed from when Odin died, and the Jinn region is also where the Doom Chair that the gods go to discuss the highest things is near. Jinn region. That's the two places it's referenced in the most critical of the Eddas, right? So to me, I call the higher force the Jinn region. which I think is a fucking badass name for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it has jinn in the title, which
Yeah.
is also funny because the question of the jinn in the Middle Eastern mysticism, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's the obviously there's the OR as well, which is the life force, which like the like chi in the east that they call in the east, we call the OR.
The Owa?
Yeah, the ODR, but the D is silent, so OR. The
The okay, the ODR, but it's
yeah,
the OWA. Okay.
or the Odic force. That's
Oh,
the
the Odic for I've seen that
that's the
written down. I didn't know that you didn't. I thought that was the TH, the alternate version of th. Like I thought that was other.
yeah, over, yeah, or it sometimes is silent as well, OR. So it's kind of
Gotcha.
like
Gotcha.
the chi, and then you have the in the east you have the chi as well, because I've been looking into Taoism quite a lot. I actually got the you can see my tattoos. I've got a
Yeah.
yeah, and I've got the other ones as well, like
Fucking A.
there. So I got the Borgwa, or the I Ching.
Yeah. I use an I Ching deck in my tarot readings.
Yeah, I've got an I Ching deck as well. So
yeah,
it's but I've looking quite into Taoism, because I think out of all the Eastern philosophies and esoteric systems out there, Taoism is the one which is probably has that I've had the most interest in, because it kind of it correlates a lot with like that it's I think it's probably the most powerful system in the East, basically, from what I've looked into. And it kind of correlates very much with the northern, like the Norse and like the tradition as well. So it kind of you can match it and it kind of works together.
But I've listened to a little bit about that. You know, I first time I think I heard much about it was like Alan Watts lectures.
Because I've noticed I noticed when it comes to the East, the Indian subcontinent is kind of almost just as corrupted as the Middle East is in its religious systems. Not all of it, but a large chunk of it is like it's not.
Yeah.
And you got like a lot of like gurus there who are like charlatans and stuff.
Yeah.
But the Far East basically hasn't been as corrupted yet.
Yeah. The Dark Atlanteans, they've gotten around.
Yeah. Yeah, the Far East is less corrupted out of all of them, and in terms of like what written traditions, that's probably the least corrupted in all the written ones. Obviously, you've got oral ones in Africa and stuff were still intact, but like talking about written ones, that's the ones that at least been is in the Far East, like so Japan, China, Korea, and stuff.
Question, because I because this I said like I think you know the answer to this. Are all Tengu in Japanese mythos? It seems like most of them are a kind of almost a derogatory depiction of a Jew, right? Because the most human looking of Tengu are kind of they look pretty Jewy, right? Is that what they're doing there with Tengu, or is Tengu a legitimate?
I haven't seen. So I haven't seen a picture of Tengu, because I haven't looked so much deeply into the Japanese like Shinto yet, but I'll look it up and see what you mean. But yeah, I mean, it could very well be. I mean, there's I mean, apparently the Jews are meant to be the ultimate scapegoat amongst the world. So
right, but because when I originally had heard of the Tengu, it was more like a fantasy context, and it was like a crow man, right? It didn't have any human features, or if it did have human features, it didn't necessarily have like this big long obnoxious nose, and some of them are drawn with the cube on the head. They got they got the cube like some of the Hasidics.
Well, it's actually interesting you say that, because you know the Batman Returns film, the Penguin in that Danny DeVito's Penguin in Batman Returns. Remember that film?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. At the time, the two Jewish journalists complained about that film being anti-Semitic, because it was basically portraying the Penguin as basically a Nazi propaganda version of the Jew. So
really?
yes, and
You're right.
That never crossed
Oh my
that's
god!
the-
Why did I never see that?
I know that exactly. It never even crossed my mind growing up watching it. But
You know,
actually,
I've been listening
but
to
actually,
anti-Semitic Instagram for a long time. I can't believe that one hasn't come across my desk.
I never that never crossed my mind growing up. Actually, when I read about that and I actually think about it, it is kind of like I can kind of now see what they mean. It is kind of a the way, also the way he's kind of trying to get his revenge on society and stuff, which is very much like, because you know, they've been so through their own history of persecution, so they have this a lot of like up to anger about that even to this day. And but I think that when it says they're a chosen people, they're chosen to be the ultimate scapegoat on the world stage throughout time. And even today, even today, like there was a break from it after World War II for a few decades of no more anti-Semitism, but now it's all come back.
Right. And it's tragic because it's so incredibly ignorant, because people don't know what a Jew is. You know, like in the Epstein files, there was a link substantiating showing that went to a YouTube video, which was Alan Dershowitz in a synagogue having a debate with somebody about Jewish heritage. And Alan, in his argument, said, like, in fact, the determinations that we have for a Jew today are based on Nazi standards of how you determine a Jew.
Well, yeah, so, they did it by bloodline. So
and he's saying that that's still how everybody being called a Jew genetically is being called a Jew. By the way, the Nazis did.
They did it. Yeah, they did it by ethnicity or bloodline. So, but then Hitler did have half Jewish SS officers, so he didn't. He wasn't actually as strict about basically who is a Jew and who isn't, because if you were half Jew under the Nazi regime, but you identified as a German and you basically just stop identifying with that, you were accepted.
To me, the depth of what I believe I'm looking at is that it was really a Jew on Jew issue, because the ultimate, you don't want to believe it, but it's actually perfectly sensible, is that the Nuremberg Codes was not a cover for exterminating people. It was a big deportation plan, but it was to settle all the Jews in Germany.
I think
why they had enough of a population by 1946 to ratify a UN resolution.
I think they actually tried to first settle them in Madagascar or something like that, but then
the concentration camps was because the war was being lost. They were on the Eastern Front, and the communists had cut off the supply chains, so people starved to death.
Yeah,
they didn't make it off. They didn't make it to the island.
I mean, there's a whole load of thing around the whole narrative of it, around like what, you know, that there was this whole planned extermination. But I think there was, obviously they did exterminate a large number of them, but I think that wasn't maybe the origin of the whole plan, but kind of like a plan B kind of situation around it. So it's not something I've like fully too much looked into deeply as enough, even though I have looked into obviously World War II, but I don't have this idea. I think with the boomer generation particularly, and I get into this a lot with and it's called what is basically labeled since post World War II, it's called the boomer truth regime, and it goes like this: Hitler being the ultimate evil, the Nazis in general, but especially Hitler, and something like John Lennon's Imagine being the ultimate good. This idea that everyone just gets around, sings Kumbaya around the fire, and there's basically this kind of like mixture of liberalism and communism kind of utopia.
Right.
which is kind of all a bit silly and a bit like, you know, naive. And that's been kind of like the post World War II mythology in a sense that, and so anything that basically is 10 steps away from Adolf Hitler is seen as pure evil, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
I think that paradigm, now that the boomers are going on to retirement and they're no longer they're starting to less be in power now, their worldview is, I think that's kind of coming to an end, that whole that mythology that was created temporarily.
Yes, and we have a test because we can't be dehumanizing the Jews because we're now understanding this whole thing. You got to understand the scapegoat of it all. There's a million things that need to be understood. And what's also extraordinarily obvious is that there's plenty of fucking regular ass dudes that are pretty much just like secular Jews that are just living their life, and you know, they may not even go to temple. You know, it's. I
mean, one of my
at worst, they have to deal with their parents' values imprinted on them, and that's
so one of my grandparents' father was a Jew, basically. So I've a small amount of Ashkenazim Jewish in my, you know, ancestry, basically. So it's my grandmother. What?
We can still be friends.
Yeah. I didn't even know I had it in my ancestry until I was about 18 years old. Anyway, so at that time,
if I'm descendant of Templars, if I'm descendant of Templars, I might also have some Jewish blood in me I don't know about. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of Europeans have because they did mix in with the host nations. So.
I had a past life reading done on me where apparently I went to some Jews in Scotland or something, and I studied the Kabbalah in Scotland way back in like the Middle Ages sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, apparently, I think Scotland's actually got a lot of like associations with the Jews for some reason. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just British Israelism.
Well, if we're talking about the Scottish rite of Freemasonry is built upon Judaism. Right.
Yeah,
It's
Judaism.
I think the issue with the Templars is that I think Europe wanted to be done with Judeo-Christian, and they just wanted to be like Christian or perhaps Roman Christian, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted to. I think they kicked the Templars out, and I think that's where everybody got fed into America, and that's how my ancestors came to America. Like my last name is Purdy. There's a Purdy's, New York. My ancestors founded that town, right? Yeah. So it makes sense that we're kind of like these rejects because our lines wanted to keep some of the more Jewish tradition to the culture that reflects how America is comparatively in this very, very weird mix of it all, right?
You have quite a lot of we have quite a lot of Jewish influence in America. It's whereas here in Britain, it's like Jews are like such a tiny. There are only a few thousand Jews here in Britain, so it's hardly any. But well, there obviously are some, but there's not. It's not like it's in America where you have like
right. This is so much more complicated than the Jews. It's not even funny, right? You know, this is why I try to speak of the 13 bloodlines more so, right? Because it has a lot more to do with that, and they have a lot of bastard children. They're an inversion of the Hyperborean breeding program, which was supposed to stop after the Udon Ma did its first thing, but they didn't, and it got bad. And I don't think the box saga quite explains how bad it got.
Well, it all goes back to the black nobility, which is which is actually, if you actually look at like a lot of their surnames, it's not Jewish surnames. It's mostly French, Italian, and German surnames. But they seem to be their headquarters seems to be in Switzerland, and that's where the World Economic Forum is and stuff. So that seems to be the headquarters of where they are, and that's kind of where they. But they're basically the black nobility, and they are and that they're behind the actual like finance system and stuff. So they're the So they're probably like what you would call the 13 families, but like I think they it gets into like there's also the Vatican as well, which is where the head of all like kind of like spiritual operations take place, which is different from the financial aspect of it, I think, because
Yeah.
the three things you need to control population are religion, finance, and the military. And then the United States, particularly Washington D.C. and the American deep state, is the center of the military.
Yeah, it's all the police state stuff, right? There are
Yeah.
no wars. You know, this is all agreed upon police actions of, you know, who has broken big bad global laws.
Yes.
Right? That's and when it works, I guess it works because
Yeah.
you know, nobody came in to save Iran from America and Israel. Why?
Yeah, I mean,
Because Iran had legitimately broken some laws. They almost killed some protesters just because they were protesters, right? So it's like, and then everybody's complaining that we went to war. It's just like, this is the Ayatollah. Have you not been paying attention to how monstrous this guy is to his own people? No, never once. But unfortunately, the anti-Semitism issue has got people really blinded, and they're making all sorts of assumptions because, you know, because a broken clock has done the right thing for once.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's the I'm saying it's the ultimate scapegoat. It's throughout the Middle Ages, so any time when the elite were when they were afraid of a peasants' revolt, they would just blame it on the Jews. So that's
right,
how
exactly
the whole of like history. So they are the ultimate scapegoat, and it hasn't changed like since then. So
and I will shock people by flipping a script. A lot of people didn't think I'd end up like, I'm not like gung ho for this war. I'm not like endorsing the war. I'm just saying, looking at how this war is going, this actually looks like fate foretold a good thing. Right? It does happen. We don't live in a peaceful world. I can't be that naive. Until biospiritual regenesis, there's going to be some wars once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think there will one day, sometime in the future, when basically mankind has evolved, there will probably be an end to wars in the sense that we know it today. I think there'll probably be people living separately from one another, because I don't think we're just going to come into one big global community and everyone's going to basically accept everyone as just basically one happy family. I think tribalism is something inherent within humans, and that's because humans aren't perfect. We're not perfect. The whole point of being a human is that you can be kind and compassionate one day, but you can be an absolute dickhead the next day.
You know, can I just say, like, people should just go live in a town. You know what a town is? Go find a town and live in it and do stuff in it, build things in it, make businesses in it, have fun. Have a life, meet a complete stranger and fall in love. That's pretty fucking simple to me. And you don't have to collapse society. Even though as an anarchist, I kind of want you to collapse society, but not really.
Well, maybe a temporary collapse for like, I don't know, some period of time until, so I don't know, we can get ourselves all out of debt and shit, and I don't know, read something like that, because it kind of the whole entire system is a bit messed up, so maybe it does need some sort of like change, I guess. But but then it's so much complicated. It's not really for me to kind of sit here and tell what kind of system we replace it with, because I don't have the knowledge of complex economics and all that kind of shit. Go through that, but
yeah, precisely. I mean, like, I think we can all agree a system where everybody starts by talking to each other often goes very, very well.
Yeah, I mean,
with the listening part as well, right?
I think I mean, I think things should be. I would like things to be a lot more decentralized. I don't want all this. I think what is the point in someone for where I am? So basically, someone who's in Westminster, which is basically the House of Parliament, Why should that person have, authority over me?
You know,
I don't
the
even know
problem
that.
is that we became a consumer economy for so long that nobody went into the business of making things domestically anymore, because everybody just wanted to sell, because it was less work for more money with outrageous commissions, exploiting all the wealth that was there, built on the more solid economy where there was stuff being made, right? And so everything became much more funny money when everything became about sales and service instead of production, right? You know, when I was a young person, the only fucking kind of jobs available were fucking jobs like in retail and shit. I didn't know how to fucking find a place that was, functional for everything I wanted to do and be, and big mess. And I wasn't really, I had a bad setup to my,
I mean,
really bad setup.
obviously in the United States, like corporate capitalism is huge. Here it's kind of like, it is still kind of a big thing as well, but it's not. We have a bit more on what you Americans would call socialism here in Europe, where it's
right.
You
make it pretty. You hit people pretty hard for making a lot of money.
Yeah, we don't. Well, because we have a class system, particularly in Britain, and the class system is about. It's kind of like it's not it's not to do with your money. It's to do with your culture. So I'm middle class here in Britain. Middle class people speak like me are middle class. So we speak to the working class. We're seen as speaking quite well spoken and posh. Basically, someone from the working class it's the middle class value things like education, whereas the working class will value things like toughness and sport and that kind of thing.
Right.
And then you have the upper class who value their inheritance and their ancestry, because they're basically from a line of lords and barons.
Right.
So, but I'm kind of middle class, so I'm kind of in between the working class and the upper class. But basically, the middle class is associated with being well educated. That's what basically you kind of are. You have to come from a well educated background to be middle class, and so that's what we have here. And then you have the underclass, which are like the absolute kind of like trash of society, the ones who are just basically criminals and just live off welfare for the whole of their life and everything.
Yeah, and they only speak in like the street slang.
Yeah, I could do an impression. They speak like this, man. You know what I'm saying? Do blah blah. That's what they speak like. That kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of like that how they speak. And yeah, so it's kind of that's what I'm getting of. We have more of a class system here, whereas in America, it's you're more seen for your money. I think it's not about what background you're from. So if you're like a redneck who lives in Tennessee or somewhere, and he's basically from a trailer park, if he basically becomes a billionaire in his lifetime, he's seen for his money, and he's seen like you've gone from rags to riches. And it's kind of like the Americans seem to love that more than here in Britain. They love the idea that you can be from nowhere but make it big in the world. That's how I see America more. It's got that kind of, it's all about how much money you got.
Yeah.
Background.
They just it's easier to get into endeavors into making money, right? It's like it's not as much of a hassle to do things with business for yourself and have all sorts of things where you can do a business from home, you can do a business from here and there.
Yeah.
but there isn't this big solid infrastructure for somebody who's on a just a lower rung experience. It's much harder.
Yeah. I mean, it is very much like
Yeah.
America does seem very much like survival of kind of like the fittest or something like that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Like I've struggled with it myself. I'm not in my own ideal situation for, I've been fighting through all the hooks, traps, and snares of my own arrested development.
Yeah.
Right.
I
And
mean, because I can remember
as well as being tuned in for a very, very, very long time and getting really almost distracted from what I wanted to do in music, focusing on this shit that I'm doing right here.
Yeah, because I can remember when I was like younger, kind of like, because I watched all the American movies and stuff, and I was kind of like exposed to American culture. I thought I've had this idea of basically maybe my life would be better had I been born in America instead of here. But actually, as I've gotten older, I think my life is probably be better here than it is in America, because America, it does sound like kind of a lot more. There's a lot less to fall back on. Like it's more. It does seem to be very much that dog eat dog world kind of thing.
I can't give you from personal experience a great testimony of that, right? I'm still here under my family's home, right?
Yeah.
And so I live as authentically as I can. I don't pretend I'm anything more or less than what I am to my audience, right?
Yeah.
So but that's unique for me because of how I am. Like a lot of people have just 5% more discipline and responsibility than me, and also a naive trust of the state and go on. Like I also sabotage myself out of mistrust of the state. So like I don't do welfare and food stamps and all these different things because not that I have ever believed they were going to pull off a pandemic kind of thing, but they pulled off a pandemic kind of thing. And there was nothing like Section 8, like there's nothing they could threaten me with because I was here in my family's house and my family didn't threaten me with getting vaccinated, even though they really thought I should have. Right?
I mean,
But so like it's there's other little perks that I kind of almost imagine, right? Especially because during COVID, like there was like a lot of that restriction shit, but not really at the same time. They elevated a lot of it. A lot of it was not happening. Most of it was happening in liberal fucking places with idiots, where a lot of conservative places, it was just like, okay, maybe the parks were closed for like 2 weeks, but then they opened up the parks again. Like,
it was a very different situation here. It was more like basically what you said about the liberal places. There was kind of like that all over the country here,
right? Well, it was 1984 all over Europe because you guys didn't do what America
we do. We do in Europe. We do live more in a nanny state. Let's just put it that way. We probably have less freedom in a lot of ways.
Right. You see, you need to have a revolution in which you create a separation of powers. Your parliamentary systems are not giving you separation of powers. You don't have a court system that can do a lawful rebellion against an authoritarian executive or a corrupt legislature.
One of the good things about Parliament is that the king, for example, we have now, he doesn't actually have that much power, not as much power as he used to, but he's a kind of like a cultural representative. He can basically fire any prime minister he wants to. So that kind of that doesn't allow basically for proper dictatorships to take over in parliamentary democracies. Whereas in a republic like what you have, you can see what Donald Trump like is now. He's basically almost becoming a dictator. So I mean, he's not literally, not quite. I mean, he's not exactly. I mean, he is kind of. He does.
For the most part, he only has as much authority as has been given to that office. The White House is a dictatorship that has had different dictators.
Well, it's the deep state of the United. It's the deep state.
And you know what? My life was far worse under everybody else but Trump, with the exception of Trump during the pandemic. Other than that, I've dealt with bullshit from Obama and Biden and Bush and all of them, right?
Yeah.
But like, because there's something going on that's transcendent of this guy from the House of Orange.
Yeah.
He's from House of Orange. That's his bloodline. There's something transcendent of it because the times are changing, right?
Yeah.
There'll be new uglies and new pretties. But we also have so much awareness during this transition. As long as we're not stupid enough to get ourselves annihilated, and thus that chunk of consciousness with it, you know, we might get some wins that are transcendent of anything that anybody wants to fucking understand, because nobody like understands how we got here. Does anybody understand how weed got legal in America across the board? Because I do. I was part of it.
I mean, here in Europe, pretty much everyone just hates Trump. So he's not liked very much here in Europe. Even though I do actually have some family members who like him. So, but I'm kind of like I mean, I don't hate the guy, but I don't. At the end of the day, it's kind of like, yeah. So,
well. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to say about the House of Windsor, which is understood to be a hijack, and I've understood that everything's been wrong since you lost the Plantagenet kings. Not that they were the best, but the Plantagenet kings were much more of those true monarch family, father of the nation kind of bloodline.
Yes, yeah. I mean, King Henry VIII was after that. That's the Tudors who were after the Plantagenets, and King Henry VIII was I actually went to his palace once because it's like a tourist thing now, but they have like a proper tour guide there who acts out King Henry VIII and his wives and all that. So, but yeah, he kind of, I mean, the Tudors, King Henry VIII, he basically kind of brought a lot of money back to the court, to the royal court, because before that the Plantagenets, before King Henry VIII, were kind of going out of business a bit because they were all poor, so they basically lost a lot of their money. And then basically King Henry VIII basically brought loads of money into England basically, and kind of built it way up there. And then he created his own church where he separated from the Vatican because he basically wanted power separate from the Vatican. So basically he did a kind of a lot of he changed the country quite a lot. But I think since really, I think the royal family here now are kind of becoming less relevant. It's kind of like this. They don't really have that same function they used to, because they don't actually go on the battlefield with their
right.
Yeah, they don't have. They're just kind of like these, I don't know, celebrity cultural figureheads now who kind of it's quite boring in a sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they're doing their shit in the shadows. There's a lot of interesting things to be said. I mean, I don't know what's been going on with King Charles, but Queen Elizabeth in her day, every time she had to go to the city of London, she has to go outside of wearing royal garb. Somehow this monarch is not allowed to be the monarch if she goes to the city of London.
Yes.
Have you've seen this, right? Where she's just dressed in her best clothes, but none of her royal attire.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, they don't have as much power as they used to. They can't. Their power's been dismantled, particularly after the French Revolution, because they saw what was happening over there, and they didn't want to get their heads chopped off. So they basically had to compromise with basically becoming more of what we'd call democracy today. So they kind of went more. So they lost their power over that time. Even though probably Queen Victoria in the Victorian era, she had probably a lot more power than the royals do today. But because there was the time of the British Empire and stuff. So I mean, over the 20th century, particularly, their kind of power's been kind of dismantled and stuff. And I mean, a lot of people in this country seem to have this kind of love for Queen Elizabeth II, the one who's recently died, but not many people that much like King Charles. They just think he's kind of so I think the monarchy could be abolished in the coming century.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see that. And sometimes I wonder, because not that I think that countries need a monarchy system, but if you've got a monarch and you've got like a monarch that is not doing a bad job
Yeah.
overall. Like their bloodline hasn't done a
Yeah.
bad job. I mean, there's something.
I mean, there has to be.
Like,
I would say there has to be kind of
there's something
initiative.
that needs to be preserved. I feel like,
Yeah.
you know, because
I
they
mean,
feel like a great tragedy. If
I think that I think the idea of having a king or something is all right. It has to, they have to be initiated into something, and they have to kind of have kind of a, they have to basically stand up to a certain moral character. They can't just be like, so they have to kind of prove themselves in a sense, because the problem when you do it to bloodline, it kind of, that bloodline comes corrupt after a while. So
right.
and that,
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like saying you've got to have like this head family that it's there. They don't have any authority, but they are this representation of the of the cultural soul of the nation.
yeah, they're I mean, they're our figurehead in the same way your president is your figurehead. We have that's our figurehead. The prime minister isn't our figurehead. The prime minister is just basically the manager of the parliamentary office. They don't actually have that much power.
Right.
The prime minister.
Yeah.
And the,
What I do think though is I think that when you have that also, I think the risk of letting them have like a First Amendment kind of like as a king, like as kind of what was like this king. It's kind of like the way I'm watching with the Iranians over here, where like they have they want to do things the way that Reza Pahlavi, the prince, wants things done, right? And so it would almost be like the civil version of that, where you would have the Republic of Iran with its elected government, and then this this guy who is this figurehead. Yes, but this figurehead actually means something because it can say anything it wants to everybody, right? So you've got the free speech of the people, and then you've got the bully pulpit of a family line demagogue, all keeping the government accountable. That could work. That could work.
Yeah. I mean, that's what he has like, and that's what he had back in like the really before the Enlightenment. You had basically, you did have that basically. You had basically the royal, the king basically was well over the prime minister. So basically they couldn't, whereas now it's kind of, that's kind of balanced out, dismantled more. So, but basically, yeah, that's how it was back in like before the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment era brought all these other ideologies into basically our consciousness that have basically come what we know as today as things like republics and democracies, even though you had republics and democracies back in Greece and Rome as well, but they weren't quite the same as how they manifested in the Enlightenment. And so you have all, and then you have all these, you know, ideologies in the 20th century, fascism and communism, which are, well, they didn't last that long. So you kind of like, it's this idea of basically there's, I mean, traditionally, the idea of a king was pretty much tradition from amongst all cultures, going back even to tribal societies where you had a chieftain. So that has kind of existed, or always has existed. The only other option to that is basically you would have to have basically no government whatsoever and make everyone self-governing. You would have to educate every single person into natural law from basically the time when their consciousness was basically able to function, essentially. That's the only way you could have no government whatsoever. Is you have to educate every single person into natural law, and that's the
it's a high level, all sorts of people. It's getting, it's running. It would have to be having a lot of people helping a lot of people straighten out, because there's a lot of ancestral curses, family curses, indoctrinated programming, bloodline and stuff. The little voice in your head about don't do this, it'll kill your grandmother, even though she's already dead. But you've got this issue, but people gotta fucking process all sorts of stuff and like there's an incredible amount of I don't think I could see that level in our lifetime, but if that can have a place where it is kept as an idea to be elevated and put out there, it'll happen slowly over time as more rational thought kind of takes over. Maybe I don't know. It's hard. It's crazy because like if enough people just blindly go along with a particular assumption with the next generation from early childhood development issues, you can lose things so fast. It's a monumental effort. We have to decide in a generation if you want to make certain changes as a whole for the next generation.
Yeah, I mean, because I noticed a lot of people in like the
Oh, you froze, man. You froze. Max, hold on.
Yeah, it's back online now.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah,
all right, start from the beginning.
I was just saying, like, I noticed how a lot of people in particularly our spheres on the internet tend to be politically anarchists, and I can, I kind of would prefer that as well, I guess, or what I call self-governance. But the idea of basically that, like you said, happening in our lifetimes is to everyone in society is probably not going to happen, and so like it kind of like, but I think basically probably in the future will be the case where basically everyone might be self-governing and just can be basically the leaders of themselves. But that's I think we're a long time away from that, and I think probably actually that probably is more realistically to come more real in America first before it does here, because we're so much in. I mean, a lot of people like in Britain, like they don't have that same love of freedom I think you have in America. I think you really kind of more have that as part of the American identity to be so pro freedom. Here, it's just basically we don't care as much about freedom as other people do, as in America. So it's like we don't have that. I mean, if a lot of like the whole pro freedom movement in America, here in Europe, they're seen as kind of nutcases a bit. Like they're seen as a bit like.
I mean, like, a lot of America's a little off of its rocker because we've like. We've been a bad example. We've been in this sort of this broken kind of decline. Granted, it's been a lot of the West. I mean, like Australia has not been that different than America.
Because it's quite new country, so it's kind of similar in America in that way.
Right.
So they have like a fresh start, whereas here in we basically the whole of Europe has revolved from ancient kingdoms.
Yeah,
which go back very old. So like we have a long kind of like tradition and we're kind of conservative about that tradition that we have. So to kind of completely start a fresh start here in Europe, it's kind of a bit like, well, we will just see that as communism essentially, because communism is very much like it just wipes the slate clean. Whereas in America and Australia and countries like that in the New World, it's all very you have kind of like you don't have that long kind of, so it's more it can change more easily, even though I would say that there's a lot of conservative aspects about America, like the idea of the Constitution and stuff. I don't think they're going to just let that go and get rid of that.
Right. Yeah, no, that's there would be no way that they could. It would be such a on the face,
because you won't have in America if you get rid of your constitution, because that is foundation stone.
By and large, people that want to go and enlist in America, they're not going to turn guns on Americans, right? I mean, like if they're going into a bad situation because there's been several levels of civil breakdown into violence, they'll go in with whatever protocols they're going to go in with, right? They've deployed the Marines in non-lethal capacities in cities during prior riots. But yeah, as far as doing that is concerned, I mean, that might have happened if we had decided to ignore the open society policies of the Fabian socialists on the left and the right that were never going to close our borders. And then we would have the Islamic takeover in various places and the Mesoamerican takeover in various places. And all of those would be sweepingly different. A lot of these guys that are, Mesoamericans, especially because they're here illegally, they're not going to be part of a force that's going to fight back. They're here illegally and they're just here to work. And, there's no like hero warrior men among them. They had that fucking beaten the hell out of them by the fucking conquistadors. They want to bitch and complain about fucking British and Dutch imperialism of fuck you, man. You don't know nothing about the fucking Spaniards. Holy shit, what the Spaniards did. I mean, holy shit, the fucking people they found in the state they were in. I mean, Apocalypto was not lying to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's here in Europe. I think America's still a lot more stronger than Europe is at the moment. Europe is kind of like quite
exactly. That's why everybody
we're no longer the center of the world like we were back in 100 years ago before World War One. That's when we were the center of the world. Europe was like the epicenter, but it's not anymore, and it's kind of declined since then. And we are kind of in a more weakened state because we've been kind of in this nanny state for so long. And then you have these quite aggressive men from basically this other civilization, the Islamic civilization, coming in, and setting up their own enclaves within our own cities. And I mean, it's still, I mean, I think the Islamic population of this country is 6%, so it's not actually that high. But if you go to certain cities, you will see it. And I kind of, I've been to certain cities in this country, and I honestly, I don't feel safe there. It's just so you're walking around as literally a minority. And the Britain I grew up with, I walk anywhere and I was never a minority, but now you feel like it. As a native British person, you feel like a minority in your own country. In certain cities, not in everywhere in the country, but in particularly in the urban areas. And it's a very and it's kind of like changed that fast. And
I think you're gonna be hitting a flip culturally, like politically on that. I think it's going to flip because if this move in Iran straightens out the Middle East, then it takes away all excuses for Europe to go hard on deporting all of their types back to these places where they're not going to have a problem, where their economies are going to be able to give them jobs that if they want them. And if not, well, you're just going to have to deal with your people because we can't anymore and we shouldn't.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of the ones the people have come over recently from these places. I think a lot of them will just leave in time because they don't actually have any attachment to this place. They just here for the economic benefits, and then they'll just go and I think a lot of them want to return eventually anyway because that's where their families are.
Well, yeah.
I think in time
it's probably going to take pressure from America.
Yeah.
Right. And I believe Donald Trump's already tried to put that pressure on the British government already.
Yeah, I mean, Britain is kind of follows similarly in the footsteps of America a lot of the time, but then other countries in Europe don't, because we both speak the same language, so there's not that language barrier.
Right,
Whereas
of course.
and other countries, and also America got a lot of their ideas from Britain anyway, so we're quite similar in that sense. Whereas countries like Germany, Poland, France, Italy, and Scandinavia, they're all quite different in how they view the world and everything. They have different histories and stuff like that. It's kind of I don't know how they'll deal with it, and I think I think eventually it will turn around sometime, but it's going to probably take a few decades before it does. And when that happens, that will probably
I don't know, man. I feel like I don't know. Well, we'll see. I feel like if the world is going to change, then it's going to change the attitudes, and because like like if you talked to anybody who, bringing up weed again, but if you talk to anybody who's a weed advocate 15 years ago, and you told them that weed was going to be legal by around 2021, 22, they would have said bullshit. Yeah, 15 years, less than 2 decades, right?
Yeah.
So, when the world changes, it can be very, very surprising, very, very shocking, especially because of how on its face wrong it is.
Yeah.
How many people are talking about how on its face wrong it is? How it's very easy to transcend their racism fucking arguments.
I'm realizing the whole conversation around things like mass immigration now, you can actually speak about it now in society, whereas 10 years ago it was kind of like something very fringe to speak about. You're constantly worried about being called a racist and stuff like that. Right. Whereas now it's that's kind of all gone out the way, and it's kind of like we can actually talk about it now. Whereas 10 years ago, that was not the case. It was really kind of like you had to kind of, you were just going to be labeled a racist, and that's it. And that's the end of the conversation. Whereas now people actually talk about this stuff. So I think it is kind of, there is that has been allowed to basically come into like the conversation now. So it's not that I mean, a lot of stuff 10 years ago was like not just that, but like a lot of things to talk about were off the table. It was just basically this very it was, I think basically 10 years ago was the last kind of stronghold for what I call this kind of the kind of boomer truth regime is what I call it.
Right.
That was the last line.
That was the significant impact year, right? And it ends up, it lines up with the politics, which is what makes it fascinating. And it's because I try not to make it like, oh, it's because Trump did things. It's because this is what is happening as a consequence of the orbit of bullshit around Trump. Right? It revolved around that, because the whole world is all up in America's business like that. So the whole world just watches all this shit happen in real time and doesn't understand what's going on, where America's coming from. I mean, a lot of places don't even fully understand that there are 50 nation states in contract as how this works.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So my man, it's been a little bit over 2 hours. It is a work night, and I think we've covered all the great, tremendous stuff. I'm not rushing us off, because I want to make sure here at the here as a wrap up, though, your online here again, you have your shamanic services available and everything else. So why don't you talk a little bit about what you can do for people over in the Falcon Eye Coven?
Right. So in the Falcon Eye Coven, I do like a mixture of I do astrology readings. I'm actually a qualified astrologer, so I've got the certification to prove it if you want to actually see it.
Credentials.
you go.
All right.
There it is. That's my certification. So, yeah, I'm actually a certificate astrologer, and I do also rune readings, tarot
We all
reading.
know your legal last name now.
Yeah.
not that this was far off. Like
No.
Zerilath Eternal is a far stretch from Steve Purdy.
Yeah. I mean, I have to. Yeah, kind of. I make it similar to that because. But yeah.
Hey,
anyway,
it works. It works.
Yeah.
My name isn't very cool, so I changed it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I do also rune readings, tarot readings. I also do classes in magic as well. So I do kind of it. My magic is kind of it's a mixture of I guess what you would call Northern traditional magic, but also Hermetic magic mixed in there as well. So it's kind of like my own system of magic that I'm working on. I haven't really like officially named it anything yet, but it's kind of like it's also in development as well. So it's not just like an ongoing thing. So I have that, and I do classes in magic as well. And there's grade 1 and there's grade 2 versions of it. Yeah, I mean the astrology readings. I do. I kind of want to do a lot more of that because I think it kind of helps people understand like what their I guess what their role is in life.
Right.
People. So it kind of it's basically understands their templating. I'm in my astrological chart, for example, I'm mostly Cancer and Leo in my planets. So I'm Cancer in my Sun, Mercury, and Chiron, and I'm Leo in my Moon, Mars, and Venus.
Yeah.
So
I've got a ridiculous traffic jam in Leo. Like my Mars, my Jupiter, my North Node is all conjunct in Leo.
Yeah, I mean Leo's quite a good one to have in Jupiter because that means your fortune then. So your fortune is to be your fortune is basically to shine out a lot of the time. That's your fortune as a Leo, if it's in Jupiter.
Yeah. It definitely works that way. Like my present, like if I'm there, my presence is like there. I'm like, who's this guy in the room?
That's that. Whereas my Leo aspect is more it is there very much inside, but it's more hidden because it's in Moon, Venus, and Mars. So it's kind of like you rarely kind of you see it, but you won't see it. It rarely comes out, but when it does come out, it comes out. And
for me, it's on all the time because it's my midheaven.
Yeah, I mean it's I've Leo in my South Node as well, my Aquarius and my North Node. So it's kind of like Leo is kind of very much a foundation within my chart, but because it's my South Node, because that's what I've already mastered. But North Node is what you're meant to be becoming in this life. So you're meant to work towards that. And I have to work towards more Aquarian themes in my life, which is yeah, and it's quite interesting because my dad's an Aquarius, so.
So wait, your North Node's an Aquarius.
Yeah, my North Node's an Aquarius. My dad is an Aquarius.
Gotcha.
My father was.
So our nodes are looking in opposite directions. You've got a node opposite to me.
Yeah. So your North Node's in. So yeah, you're meant to be becoming more Leo themed in your life, this life. So that's what you're meant to be working towards.
It works. I definitely walk around like I'm a fucking lion that owns the place. This is what I enjoy walking around places like I own
it. Yeah. Whereas in my Jupiter, I'm Gemini, so that's so my fortune is in I would say kind of intellectual pursuits in a sense, and kind of like communication is one of them.
For which one?
My Jupiter is in Gemini.
Oh, your Jupiter's in Gemini. Gotcha.
Yeah. So my fortune is in Gemini. So that kind of, which apparently, according to astrological reading I got, gives me high intelligence. Apparently, but and intellectual abilities. So that's kind of where that comes from probably. And then I do have Capricorn in my Saturn, which is kind of, but it's in opposition to my Sun, which is in Cancer. So it's kind of a so that's kind of my challenge in life, is basically I'll have to work fucking hard to get to where I want to be. And so that, because it's my Saturn's in Capricorn, so which is probably the most Saturnian thing to have in your Saturn, but
Yeah,
because
for
Capricorn's
sure.
ruled by Saturn, and it's kind of so I mean, my astrological readings are kind of like, though, I can kind of figure out someone by just looking at their astrology chart a lot of the time, and I've been doing it with like I just go and kind of look at kind of what you call famous people online, and I'll just put them in there, and I'll check out their astrology chart, and it usually is 100% looks like it is correct. Like I can kind of like see it within them.
My buddy Robert Phoenix is professional astrologer over here. He does his thing with his channel, and he has a star of the day segment. So he does a celebrity reading all the time if it's their birthday or near their birthday, but like maybe it's like off by a day, because he doesn't do it every day of the week. So he might grab one that's from a weekend if he sees fit or whatever. So he's done all sorts of interesting people. He's also done nations, companies, and marriages, and like whatever you see, something significant of that date that you would mark like a natal chart. Yeah.
I mean, you can do it with like nations and countries and stuff, and see what they like where their charts are, and it's kind of like, it kind of does tell you like a lot.
Iran is the IRGC is a Aryan version of Iran, because that's when the revolution took over, was in Aries, and they're falling in Aries, which is interesting.
I mean, it's kind of like weird, this country, because if the United Kingdom, that wasn't formed into one nation until about 17, I think, 01 or something, and before that it was just England basically, and then it kind of went in and became the United Kingdom about 300 years ago.
Right.
So there's no such thing as the United Kingdom or Great Britain before that. I mean, Britain is kind of like a Roman term for this island anyway, and they just kind of, when all the Scotland and England and Wales and Ireland united, it became the United Kingdom, and and then so it's kind of like they kind of have two, obviously, on this country, because it's kind of not always been one unified island. So so it's like, I can't remember which one actually it is. Like I think it's actually the Sun is an Aries in the United Kingdom. I think so. And so it's born on the sign of Aries, but I know that the United States is born under the sign of Cancer.
Correct.
So, and but even though
we just had our Pluto return recently.
There's this interesting. Well, I'll show it to you now, but I'll maybe show it to you another time. It's called it's this book on the astrological ages, which basically says that he says that basically the United States is Piscean in its basically energy, which is quite interesting.
It's basically Piscean and what?
And he says that basically the United States is Piscean in its energy.
Because I can feel like I can feel that, right? And that comes like, well, there's definitely a whole lot of, Age of Pisces with the heavy kind of like Protestantism that
and it's kind of it's like
the themes of the government.
It's religious evangelicalism as well, and it's kind of and it's idea of like there being almost a sense of illusion, like the idea of the American dream and stuff. And that,
I think the high ideal of the deists that established this country is also in the mix, because it runs close to it, because that's coming out of the Freemasonic stuff, which, like I said, is Jewish based.
But you also have got a lot of Puritan, like because the influences there as well, and that was kind of no, like strictly very religious. So that comes out of there. So well, it came from England first, but they went over there and kind of made it a lot of settlements there. But yeah, I mean that he says that Europe, particularly Rome and the Roman Empire, is very Aries in its energy.
Right.
So Europe is Aries, and I would say probably that is true because there's been so many wars and conflicts here in this, and so many like. You also got the idea of the veneration of the warrior archetype here in Europe, and the conqueror, and like so that is very like Aries. And he said that Egypt is Taurian.
Well, I took a quick look over here because I didn't remember. So Jupiter is pretty much conjunct. It's pretty close to conjunct the sun in Cancer. Right, and it's directly conjunct. It's very conjunct Venus, which is also in Cancer. So Venus and Jupiter, and the Sun and Mercury are in Cancer. Right, so there's all this Cancerian stuff, but with Jupiter's pretty much close enough to be in conjunction with Venus and the Sun. So that's probably why we're getting all that Jupiterian energy as such. Is Jupiter exalted in Cancer?
Jupiter's exalted in you mean that right now at this time? Jupiter's in Cancer. Yeah, it is. Yeah, Jupiter's in Cancer right now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, that's funny. So we're having a Jupiter return right now, then.
Yeah. So it's Jupiter's in Cancer, but it's going to be this year. It's going to turn to Leo. So Jupiter's going to be in Leo this year, which would be probably quite good for us because we've got Leo energy in our charts. So anyone who's got a lot of Leo, it's going to basically be probably a very transformative, but also probably a lot of fortune is going to be brought into our lives. So that's probably something to look forward to.
And so, like, we're also Sagittarius ascending. So Jupiter rules Sagittarius.
Yeah, I'm a Sagittarius ascendant. So
yeah,
it gets into my which is kind of a very that because your ascendant is actually probably just as important as your sun sign because it gets into what you think life should be all about. Essentially, it's basically what you base your life on. So basically, the Sagittarius is the adventurer, it's the explorer, it's one who looks into basically has a strong interest in history, religion, the occult, the esoteric, and all of that. That's the kind of it's the explorer into all of that. And it's kind of like it goes through all the various paradigms in order to kind of and it just goes into it. Whereas a lot of other people, who don't have Sagittarius in their chart, they struggle to kind of, a lot of them I noticed will just stay in one or two paradigms their whole life and never change from that. Whereas the Sagittarius goes through all of them, because it doesn't have it's a lot more. I would say it's one of those very open-minded signs in that sense.
My moon cusps Sag and Capricorn. So but I definitely feel more of the Sag because I'm in my best mood when I'm traveling around, when I'm I like to keep moving. I like to do it's why I do the drive streams.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, your
very Sagittarius moon thing to do.
Your emotions seem to be more Sagittarian. They're not really very Capricorn. That's what I'm saying. Your emotions they seem to be more Sagittarius. They don't seem to be very Capricorn is a bit more. Their emotions are a lot more serious.
Right. Yeah. I don't think I have anything in Capricorn. I have my Saturn and my Jupiter are retrograde, right? But because my Saturn is retrograde and I don't have anything in Capricorn, that's probably why I don't come off very Capricorn. And I got Mercury in Pisces, and that's in classical, that's also Jupiter. So that's two planets of the mind in Jupiter signs.
Yeah. The Mercury affects the intellect and the mind and stuff. So I imagine actually having Mercury in Pisces must make quite a good artist or something, because having that kind of, it's the base of the mind of an artist essentially if you have Mercury in Pisces. Whereas I have a water sign in Mercury, which is Cancer as well. So
Yeah,
any water signs in your mind is kind of very artistic, but I think one of the things it can kind of not it's you kind of at times I think you lose logic and rationality in a sense, which is kind of a good thing because that means you're kind of a shamanic mind.
Yes. Yeah. It's
like,
I can turn it on and off, go from, from going into the irrational to the rational when I need to. Such.
Yeah. Find like people who, if someone has an air sign in their Mercury, for example, they're going to be very logical and rational about everything, and that's kind of. I noticed if you're too logical and rational about everything, it just becomes boring. So you need to be a bit irrational sometimes in order to basically not like, it's, you know what I mean, because it kind of makes things more interesting.
Like, I look like I've got Uranus on my ascendant. So if you want me to make things weird and unexpected, I can do that for you. I can ruin the whole show right now doing something. But anyway, man, cool. All right. I think I want to call it here and get ready to handle the rest of my evening. So just the last sign off on your links and all that stuff. And I got to update the description box in YouTube when the stream is over, and it'll have all of your information established.
Yeah. So my website is www.valkanicoven.com. So I mean, I could send you a link to it if you want. I don't know how to do it on here exactly.
I'm just gonna copy paste from the stream that it didn't go to the description and put it in here.
Yeah, but you know the address to my website and everything. You know how to put that on, don't you?
Yeah. It was all set up before. So that's all I have to do is copy paste it.
Yeah, so it's been good talking to you. It's good, because we haven't talked to each other for a while actually. So it's been good to actually come back on talking to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, good.
Yeah. So I end it here. So
all right, guys.
So see you next time.
Yes, I'll see you again. All right, guys, take care. And I gotta try and come on tomorrow and do the last 10 pages of the Talmud in a one-shot stream. All right. Peace.
Peace.